weren't you with that guy? He was like, oh, no, me, I don't know that guy. And I think that there's a little bit of Peter in all of us. We all kind of get this idea where we love God, but somebody calls us out on it. We love Christ, or we're interested in Christ, or at least we think he's pretty cool. But when somebody starts talking to us about Christ, we kind of, hide that little part. And I was like that. And I didn't want to be that way anymore. But one other thing that Peter showed me, which was very interesting, and all us bathrobed characters that showed me, is that we were invited to come as our favorite Bible character, but nobody dressed up as Jesus. That makes sense? It's weird. Our favorite Bible character, nobody dressed up as Jesus. And I can't speak for other people why they didn't dress up as Jesus. I can only speak up for myself. And the reason why I didn't is because I didn't think I was good enough. The furthest I could go was to be Peter, who wanted to try but also denied. But I didn't want to put on Christ. The sermon title for today is Put Away Christmas and Put on Christ. And I think that there's something in each and every one of us that wants to put on the Christ. Every year around this season, we go through this little piece of a metamorphosis. We don't see the whole thing through, though. We say, hey, you know what? It's Christmas. I tried to give a person I assumed was experiencing homelessness, I tried to give them a coffee, and somebody else beat me to it. And I came to the guy with a coffee, and he was like, oh, I already got one. And then the guy said, it's Christmas. The guy who beat me to it. So it's that time of year where we feel like, I'm going to let a little bit of this out. And then right around this time frame, a week later, we start saying, you know what, this year's going to be different. This year, I'm going to do this. I'm going to let this much more of myself out this year. I'm going to do this much more this year. But for some reason, we don't put it all the way on. We don't feel maybe worthy or worth it, or we don't believe that we can do it, or we don't receive the encouragement from a community of people who are also trying. So right now, I'm going to invite Deb to come up and to talk us a little bit more about this space where we say this year will be different. And then we'll continue on.
I'm going to come down close to you too. So, how many of you have made a New Year's resolution in your life? All right. How many of you have seen that resolution through to fruition, to where you wanted it to go? Wow, there's a couple of you out there. You're better than me, I gotta say. I think there's something in us, innately, being human, that yearns for that clean slate, that moment where you can say, this time I'm gonna do it better. This time, I'm gonna do it in a different way. And that New Year seems to be, we've gone through the birth of Christ, and we're here and it's a new year, and that just seems like the place, right? That's the place that you kind of go, yeah, okay, new beginning, new start, I can do this. Well, I make the same New Year's resolution every year since I've been an adult. And it's a 2-phase resolution. I'm going to exercise more and I'm going to lose weight. I never go any further than that because, boy, if I could just do that, I'd be there. But I never go more than a month with either of those resolutions. And I think there's a reason for that. Because they're not coming from the right place. And I love the theme of putting on Christ. Because right now, in this moment, in this world, I honestly believe that something miraculous is about to happen. I feel that energy. I feel like our wings have been beating against that cocoon for a while, and that we're ready to come out and be butterflies in the world. I honestly believe that this is our year. Now, I have to say that in order to approach the new beginning thing, the whole resolution thing, differently, in a way that might, for me, bring it to fruition, is to have a different place of intent. That the intention isn't coming from, for me, I'm going to speak with my personal New Year's resolutions of, yay, these many, many years, that it isn't from a place of, I need to be a better person. It isn't from a place of, I feel shame. It isn't from a place of, I just want to be not this anymore, but something else. Because quite honestly, all these years, that's where it's come from. And so putting on Christ, how does that change things? How does that make my resolution different? So when I was thinking about this, I realized, and I'll be honest, this is about a 4-year or 3-year process. Because when I was diagnosed with cancer, it was like my body was having a come to Jesus moment with me. Because I didn't pay much attention to my body, except on New Year's when I said I was going to lose weight and exercise more. And all of a sudden, my body's going, you got to pay attention. Something's happening here, and you need to be awake. Awake, awake, awake. And so for me now, I've been in a process of coming to an understanding that my body is a precious gift from God. Isn't that remarkable? God created this body in a unique way for my unique gifts and talents to walk in the world and be God's hands and feet and voice. Now that's not just me, that's every single one of us. Created in the image of God, given the gift of a human body to house a spirit, a soul that's meant to walk in the world and take on Christ in the world. Just think about the power of understanding that and living that. And so for me, it's taken me, almost 66 years, my birthday's in 2 weeks, so, to kind of come to this amazing realization that this gift that I've been given may need a little more exercise, may need to eat a little healthier, but the gift is created in the image of God. It's perfect as it is. Now, I'm going to feel better if I do some things, right? A little differently this year. But I can do that. That's not an insurmountable thing for me to do. And all it took was that understanding that this is God-given. And I should treasure that for as many more years as I have with it. So, how can we reframe our New Year's resolutions into faith-filled covenants with God? Because that changes everything. And I really, like I said when I started, I really believe something big is coming this year. And I think that we're called to become the verb Christ. We got to act. We got to take Christ on, and we've got to act and move out of that space, the Christ space. So here's the other covenant I'm making this year. I'm making a covenant to listen to the Spirit and to get on board, but to stop and discern that what I do is always coming out of a place of love, because that's the Spirit of Christ. And that it's really easy for me to get riled up. How many of you can get riled up? How many of you can get riled up? Yeah, me too. I can get riled up and I can get on that phone and I can make phone calls. But that's not the energy of the Spirit. And I'm reminded of what we resist persists. And so this year, my covenant, my faithful covenant, is to stand and let my light shine and stand for what I believe is right, not stand against what I believe is wrong. I'm going to stand for, in the light of Christ that shines in me, with my unique talents and gifts, and not against. It's not going to be a year of being against. That's my commitment. That's my covenant, my sacred covenant. So, as you think about this new year, and you think about the new beginnings that you'd like to make, think about how you can covenant with God to do the work of God in the world and in your own life. How can you let your light shine and be for what Christ was for? Take on Christ. And now I'm going to hand it back to Pedro.
As Deb said, we are created in the image and likeness of God. So what does that mean? What that means to me is this: the costume that we put on is anything that tells us otherwise. Anything that tells you that you are not in the image of God is a costume, is a mask, is not you. In that way, putting on Christ is not pretending to be someone that you are not, but it's actually coming into intimate contact with that which you are. To put on Christ is to put on the nature with which you were created. To love as you would like to be loved is to be in integrity with the person that you are. Not the person that you wish you could be, not the person that has to be qualified, but the intimate contact, the integrity with the person that you are. Each and every one of us knows what it's like to not receive the love that we desire. It's that simple. We know what it's like. Don't do that. You get it? Jesus didn't make it hard. Treat people the way you want to be treated. That starts with knowing who you are. If you know you're the Christ, then treat others like the Christ. Maybe they forgot who they were. But if you shine your light and you stand as a reminder to bring them back to the mind of who they truly are, then we're really doing something for this world. As Deb said, being against is not going to do anything. We talk a lot about what we're not. We identify frequently with what we're not. And I'm going to be blunt. In a tradition that's supposed to be progressive, progression is not being the opposite of something. Does that make sense? To say we are not that is not progressive. No one cares who we are not. They want to know who we are. But we can't tell them if we don't know. So this year, the best thing you can do is to know yourself. Know your true self. Love your true self. See the true self in others and invite them into this grand world. Because we've been praying on earth as it is in heaven for a long time. Let it be so. We all bear the kingdom, the queendom, or whatever description makes sense to you within. But it's time for it to come without. I don't know any other way to say it. So I'm going to try to be it. And I'm going to encourage you, each and every one of you, to do the same. Do the same. Go Christward. Because that is your inheritance. And then justice will reign in this world. Amen.